Yes, we are all one people, and we're all here. Good morning. I'm Pamela Martin, a prayer practitioner here at Light on the Mountains. I'd like to take just a moment to quiet ourselves, perhaps close your eyes, and just acknowledge that presence of spirit, that inner place of our souls, that place which is connected to all there is. Spirit is that which heals, that which responds to our prayers and manifests them. It is the source of our intuition, our guidance. And so we simply just take this moment to acknowledge that and know that we have come together today to acknowledge Spirit, to enliven it in our lives, and to express it more fully. We're so grateful for this opportunity to come together in spiritual community. And so we give thanks for all the people who make it possible, for this beautiful sanctuary that was put together by many hands, for R.L. and his music, for Reverend John and his message, and for each and every one of you who showed up today. Thank you. We give thanks, knowing that it is good. And so we say together, and so it is. So on a beautiful day like today, I'm sure there are many people out in those hills seeking spirit and nature. And as John often says, whether you are in a mosque or, what do you say, a mosque, a temple, or in the privacy of your own home, it's all good and it's all God. So I wanted to just do this, read this from the poet Susan Freiburg about being in nature. I often contemplate the ritual coding in nature, which, with its hidden systems of communication and its spiritual significance, that allows us to reconnect with our truest self. Let the wilderness both teach and bear witness that the life force within knows instinctively just who you are, is aware of your place in the glory of earth, and perceives the natural gifts held inside. Let the wilderness guide you to understanding your interconnectedness. For when you come to learn the unity of all things, you no longer feel compelled to change your shape or take on new forms to fit the expectations of what you think others might envision you to be. You will recognize yourself. You will know that who you are, and trust you're akin to the great circle, and will embrace your role in its preservation and the offering of your innate gifts. And if you ever need reminding, go back. Go back to the mountains and the trees, the dirt, the moss, the sands and the wind, the mist and the deer, who call forth your deep connection and inborn intuition. You are undeniably a vital spark within all nature, here to be alive more fully and wholly, with creation's wisdom dwelling also in you. Let this be among your greatest of enlightenments. And together we will read the affirmation for August on this page in red. I am in the greater flow of life as I elevate my consciousness to the frequency of love. Thank you.
Thanks. What if?
Thank you, RL. Thank you, Axe. You know, we certainly travel in packs. Many of the people either saw last night or are rumored to be at the symphony last night are here. And so here's a poll. Who already has your blanket out on? I know, we do too. And not that we would believe in scarcity, but at 8 o'clock this morning, a lot of the good real estate was gone. I'm just saying already, so.
We gotta go, John.
I kind of. And I can see the people at home, oh my God, throw on your bathrobe, Babel. Let's get over there and throw on our blanket. So it's funny. We are at the rush to the finish of the season. Everyone's a little worn out. We want to get everything in. And usually my first talk after Labor Day is, okay, let's calm down and be present. But that's not yet. So a few weeks ago, I needed to call one of my credit card companies because I had to dispute a charge. In this particular credit card company, their employees are really well trained. It's always a good experience. I never dread having to call them. They really take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. But whenever I call anyone like that, if that's a category, I envision where they might be. And I envision this like endless like sea of cubicles kind of thing, of kind of not to judge anyone's working conditions, of kind of like what I wouldn't want to be doing. Even though I did actually have a cubicle job for one period of time in my life when I was in the school of ministry, because I was at a point that I just wanted like a punch in and punch out sort of job because I was doing a master's program. I didn't want to have to think about work when I wasn't at work, and it worked out perfectly. But anyway, so I'm kind of imagining, oh, this person in this like endless, sea of cubicles. But then I heard a dog bark. And I thought, oh, work is different now. And obviously, Fluffy or whomever it was saying it was time to do something else and to talk to customers. And they didn't skip a beat. They didn't even acknowledge that the dog was there. I would imagine they may have even gone on mute for a second to get Fluffy into the other room. But I thought, well, working for a call center, if your dog's at your feet, that can't be all that bad, can it? And then at lunch, if I get to like just wander into my own kitchen and make a sandwich, that's not too terrible. Because when I did do that cubicle kind of job in Los Angeles, I mean, like the people were really great and it was a good experience, but the getting there wasn't such a good experience. It was only 12 miles away, like from Ketchum to Haley, and it could be anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on traffic. Just kind of like when we had the road redoing a few weeks ago. You remember how you just had to bring a sandwich with you before you got there. And so, but what it brings to mind of how we judge what is good, what is bad, what, in today's topic, what is divine inspiration and will, or intuition, and what is my human ego up to, and how do they ever come to meet, and to just delve more deeply to what should I be up to? And again, if I'm working a job that maybe answering phone calls is not my ultimate thing, but Fluffy can be with me, or Will the Wonder Dog can be with me, not so bad, to reconsider. So let's talk about this issue that has so much baggage around it, this idea of divine will. Well, let's really get it to the depth of our baggage. What is God's will for your life? I mean, isn't that frightening, scaring, brought back memories of being whatever, how you grew up, and being told that this is quote unquote God's will for your life, and here's the things you can't do, and here's the things going to happen to you if you do the can't do's, and a whole sort of just soup of icky stuff that we've probably tried to leave behind. So that's not where I'm going with this. And that, of course, the way I grew up, there were people like me in this position that would tell you what the plan was supposed to be, and again, also to remind you of the consequences if you didn't get with the program. So that's not what we teach here, that's not where we go here. And it is actually a little bit, and quite a bit more, as we say, ambiguous. So, in a sense, what is, I guess, spirits, the universe, idea or will for you? And in a sense, there isn't one. We like to think, God, if I only knew what it was that I'm supposed to do, like our life is a Mission Impossible episode, and I could finally get to the secret of what it is, I would just do it. And there has to be some higher thing and a formula that if I did it, my life would unfold in wonderful ways, in different ways that it's unfolding right now. So, in my opinion, there's no plan per se, but there is a way to approach your life that I believe that fits into the consciousness of the divine. So there's a saying that I love that I quote often, and I don't remember where I even got this, that it's not what you pray for that's important so much as what you pray from. In other words, that we all need and want certain things in our life, but the question is, what is behind those intentions or desires? Where is it coming from? What do I hope to accomplish? How do I want it to affect positively my life or the life of others? So what I say, this idea of a higher consciousness or God or the divine or the universe, I see it as a higher sense of vibration and energy that we are aspiring to be in better alignment with, as opposed to some of the things that we get kind of stuck in our day-to-day life. And in a way, we don't like this answer because we say, I just kind of want to know. What is it that I'm supposed to do? And again, that's not how prayer or spirit or the divine works. That what I believe we are to aspire to is to ask those larger questions within us, and as we say, we're growing in consciousness, to say that there is a higher way of viewing things, feeling things, and aligning with that I want to come from in helping me figure out what I should be doing. And in a way that we do this through a spiritual practice within Central Spiritual Living, we have a process that some of you have participated in classes and things that we call a visioning process, which basically is just opening up our minds and our consciousness to the question, what does Spirit want to create through me? What is that level of consciousness that we need to aspire to? And that it is not from so much initially what exactly it is that I have to do, but how do I need to grow into developing consciousness to aspire to something different. And as we've spoken a lot over the last few months in the decisions we are making in the world right now, that there needs to be a sense of a higher vibration that we're coming from solving our problems, as opposed to where we often tend to be with them. So what seems to be in opposition of that? Because I think we all agree we would like to be of a higher vibration, wouldn't we? We'd like to say, I'm facing these difficult circumstances in my life, but I'm resonating with something higher, and there's going to be a sense of flow with it. And sometimes we're successful, and sometimes we're not. So what is, in a sense, we're looking at divine will, but how often do we get tugged into this thing that, let's just call it human will? In other words, or even as R.L. was talking about, that ego-based will. And of course, when I say ego-based, I mean the way that our ego shows up in not our best self-interest. First of all, we need an ego. Your ego told you that it was time to get up this morning and come here. It told you that you probably should get out of your pajamas and put on something different. Not that we would turn you away in your pajamas, but you probably thought, I probably should not be in my pajamas today. And it might have told you to have a cup of coffee or a piece of toast or something like that. That our ego tells us that we are in physical form, in a physical plane, and that we just have to do certain things. It told you to get in your car as opposed to walking 10 miles. It was a little bit easier. So we need an ego. But there are negative aspects of our ego that kind of get us messed up, get us in the weeds, so to speak, that we trip over ourselves. So when we look at the negative aspects of our ego, we're looking at will, we're thinking, well, what should I be doing with my life? Regardless if you're just starting off or if you feel like you're towards later years, like what should we be up to? I say that if you're breathing, you still have lessons to learn and things to contribute, so it doesn't really matter where you are on the spectrum here. So we can, in a sense, get ourselves messed up in the negative aspects of our ego, or in a sense, human will. So what does human will teach us or lead us astray? It tells us as we are creating that there are winners and that there are losers. And the last thing you want to be is a loser. And we face that in many different ways, trying to aspire for something, trying to get a job, trying to buy real estate. If I don't win this and have my offer come true, that I will be the loser. And And with how real estate had been up until recently, that's a big thing. People are like, I can't believe I lost out on that deal again. What's wrong with me? Then, of course, those of us, another way of going into human ego, well, I must be of a higher consciousness because we just bought something. Went right through just like that. So that's the weird thing of our human ego, that we tell ourselves that there are both winners and losers, that there, in a sense, are inherently good and bad, and that even in when we look at our country and the world today, that somehow there are people who are nefarious and bad, and there are people are inherently good and should be in charge, and the truth always lies somewhere in between, actually. So human will always tells us that it's a struggle. We may not get what we truly want, and that someone who is undeserving might get what's ours. And I remember I said a few times before, a million years ago when I was at the sales position, I always had my boss calling me in the middle of the day, don't let the other salespeople eat your lunch. Get in there, get the sale. They're going to get your sale. They're going to get your job. And I was like, that's a good way to do your job every day, isn't it? Like, oh yeah, sell. It's like, I just wouldn't even answer the phone half the time anymore. Of course, thank God it was pre-cell phone, so it was like, actually I got it on voicemail, because I was supposed to look into my voicemail like multiple times a day. It was like, they're eating your lunch out there, John. It was like, talk about fear-based, ego-based of what you think's going to happen. Oh, like, yeah, I need to, go let the air out of that tires of that other person who's selling them right now so I can beat them to the next business that I'm going to. And we get ourselves messed up like that. But as we elevate ourselves in consciousness, we realize that ultimately, even though we can make poor decisions, that there is really no good or bad, there's just what seems to be appropriate right now. So let's go back to real estate. So this week, Mac and I had a big anniversary, a year of signing the first mortgage ever in our lives. We have never owed more money in our entire lives. That's really frightening. Congratulations. It's like, and you look at the balance and it never seems to go down. Have you noticed that? And I don't know where it's going, but it's not going to our balance. We don't look at the balance, and there's positive things with that. But the interesting thing with that, it was really easy to be ego-filled with this because it flowed so easily. It just, almost as soon as we said, I think it's time to buy something, there was just, like I said, it's like getting on the intention elevator. It was just like we were just going up. It was just happening. And it would be easy to be egotistical and say, well, look at our consciousness. Look what just happened. And when we hear people say, I just can't buy anything, well, we had no trouble. It just worked out just fine. But I have a good friend, and we were just talking about this yesterday, that at the time that we bought, she just gave up trying to buy something. And there was this whole story that I don't even need to tell you, and it's just like, and there were so many other factors to buy here that seemed important at the time, that having something to own made everything else contingent and would just work everything together. Again, I don't need to go into the details. And again, they ultimately gave up, and in a sense felt like, why is everybody else seemingly able to do this and we're not? There was definitely in their mind winners and losers. And we very smugly were the winners, and they were like getting just slapped left and right about this thing. It was just never happening. Had a great conversation with them within this last couple weeks. They are living in a different city, in a different state, and their experience was like getting on the elevator. It was absolutely perfect. It fit well with other opportunities that they didn't know were going to come into their life. And it made so much more sense for them to leave this area that they're like, thank God we weren't able to buy anything. And since then, other things that just kept coming along, like, would you like to do this? Would you like to do this? Here's a lot of money to do this. Would you like to do this? They're like, oh my gosh. So the appearance of winners or losers are always temporary. I think we, in spite of our balance, if feel like we won, and my friend who was feeling like run over for a long while, absolutely doing amazingly. So again, we let our egos get in the way. And we have to ask ourselves, even when we are in great disappointment, so yeah, when we don't get what we're seemingly out for, and it just isn't coming, it just isn't working, it's just not flowing, and rather than saying, oh my, what's the state of my consciousness, say, well, the state of my consciousness actually can be very elevated right now. It's telling me that this is probably a place that you don't need to go to, and just let it go. Time to look for something else. Again, rising our vibration to a different option and a different way of being. And I believe that my friend did that, whether consciously or unconsciously, that led to amazing things. So here's the thing, though. So we have what seemingly, of course, we talk about oneness, but yet I have two lists here. I've got the good list, good and bad, the presence of the divine compulsion in my life, and the seemingly where I step all over myself and get into my human will. How can we figure out where I am at the moment, and how can, in a sense, can I bring these two lists together? Isn't that a question we always want to ask? Because we talk ourselves, because we're really good at convincing ourselves that we're on the path of divine will when we're really not. You want to all just kind of own up to that? I'm not going to ask you to share with your friends or anything. We all do it. I can't tell you how many times, I'm not going to mention names or dates or places here, where someone will come to me, like in my office and say, oh, I'm just standing in my own truth, and this is really what I'm going to do. And my intuition is telling me, they're at the edge of the cliff here and they're jumping off without a parachute. It's not my job to tell people that, actually, but I'm going, I could be wrong. But my job might be to help pick up the pieces once they realize that there was no parachute. But we all talk ourselves into that at different times. Yes, this is really what I'm supposed to do. I've got the divine urge, and here are the 10 steps to make my life better and do all this other stuff. And yeah, the more excited people are about it, the more I'm thinking, oh, no parachute. I found that that's an indicator sometimes. What I have found often, that when it's more the divine urge, is that there's actually a bit of being unsettled. The divine urge is encouraging us to stretch and do something that we might actually be a little bit uncomfortable with. It's telling you, you've done a really good job now, but let's do this. And part of us, again, back to our ego, is like, I really don't want to do that. In fact, there's a lot with my job that I go, I really would like to take a pass on this one. That's usually kind of a good sign that you're more divine will and not human will. Again, if you are feeling like you are the prophet that just came out of 40 days and 40 nights out of the desert with the message for the whole world, probably not divine will. Really not. In fact, I found, no, probably really not. If you're thinking that I just feel this different way of being coming forth, it even intimidates me a little bit. I'm not really sure what the second or third step is. I kind of know the first step. It's probably more divine will. It has a feeling of, I said I wanted to grow spiritually, and gosh, my prayer was answered. Because it's like, did I really want to grow in consciousness? It was so comfortable over there. So that's what we're dealing with. So again, how do we know the difference? And it's not something we might immediately know. So in the book group that I'm participating in this right now, there was a great exercise. I'm not going to do the exercise now. We're going to talk about it a little bit. So I want to challenge you to do this in some form. Today, tomorrow, before the symphony, after the symphony, maybe you should wait afterward. I got to go make stuff to bring to the picnic today. So first, write a list, either physically or internally. Some people are really connect with pen and paper, and I'd say not type, because there's something about connecting with an actual pen and a paper, and I know it's very analog and very so 20th century, but sometimes with our consciousness that works. Or for me, I actually prefer a moving kind of meditation, I call the dog meditation kind of thing. So if you're with that, plan like something out with the dog on your own. So there's basically 2 questions with this. If you are more of an active meditation, think from the parking lot to the pond, question 1, from the pond to the parking lot, question 2. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to take 10 seconds to do this. I want you to give this a little bit of consideration. So the first question, and of course actually might go Monday, question 1, Tuesday, question 2. So if you really want to know what the difference in your life between divine impulsion and just me making stuff up, this is a good way to do it. So the first question you ask, and to not censor this at all, because again, I'm not going to ask you to share with your friends. So you've gone to workshops and the facilitator, okay, we're going to do this journaling here and you're going to share. It's like, oh, I better come up with something good. I have to show my elevated consciousness here. So there's actually an anxiety like, oh, I have to come up here and, with something that sounds profound. You don't have to do this. You're not going to share this with anybody. So be honest. So the first question, again, whether you're going to spend a whole day on it, you're going to journal, you're going to go to the parking lot to the pond at Quigley, is just simply, what do I want? What do I want? Now, again, don't think, I want peace on the earth. Of course you do. But let's take this on the human level. Let's be honest here. So here it is, a little after 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. If you were to do this now, the first thing on your list might be pancakes. Extra butter instead of no butter. I'm just going at that level of just the little kid on you. What do you want right now? And again, you might start with pancakes, or if it's late in the afternoon, it might be ice cream. So, but then you might, again, going to that very level of, well, I want a different job, or even, I don't want to have to do that other thing anymore, or I want to go on vacation. I'm just tired of this COVID thing, and I just want to go right now. So it might even sound a little childish at first, like I want what I want when I want it kind of sort of thing. And you'll start to work through of just some things of what I want. And again, don't censor it. Anything goes kind of thing. Just get it out there. You're kind of been chewing on this for a while and haven't been wanting to admit it to anyone, let alone yourself. So just get it out. Make a long list, anything, everything you want. And then, after you've done that, how do you feel about this? Energetically, how has that, making that list of just human wants, made you feel? Just like sometimes after having the double pancakes, they were good at the time, but a half an hour later, not so much. I mean, be honest with that. It's just like, I really shouldn't have done the second pancake. It's just like, I fulfilled my human desire, and it's like, didn't work out so well. So energetically, how do you feel about this? Or do you feel like, God, I have nothing that I want. You know what I mean? Like a child is like, I want and need so much. I mean, what is your energy level or level of consciousness you're feeling at that moment? Again, be honest with yourself. Do that silly list. And then we're going to cleanse our palate a little bit. So take a break. So again, if you walked from the parking lot to the pond, you're just going to put that list away. And do something very consciously within yourself. So you probably will have noticed, if you're going over that list, it was very mind-oriented. I want this, I want this, I want to do this, I want to go there, I want to have that. And you've almost like got a headache, like, ugh, I need and want so much. So imagine in this, as we are cleansing our palate, so to speak, that you're going to move that energy from here to here. From rational thinking to intuitive feeling. And be here for a while. So if I'm just, and again, without an agenda right now, we always say, well, why am I going to do that? Doesn't matter. So even like right now as you're sitting here, just talking about the list, may have made you feel a little frantic. Made me feel frantic. Made me think about the mortgage. I got what I want, and look what we got. So as we kind of go the down elevator a little bit and just say, I'm going to be here. So let's just be here for a minute. Put the list aside. And in a moment, we have no agenda. So what does it feel like to be here? I know that, especially when I'm sitting quietly, I just start to feel actually physically a tingle here. I don't know if anyone else gets that. I just feel kind of a tingle and expansiveness, and I'm not really thinking or having to solve anything, and it's really kind of wonderful. And if you think, what is spiritual practice? Actually just kind of putting the have-to-dos aside and just being here for a while and just being there is a great place just to be. So when you get to that point, you've thrown the crazy list aside, you maybe feel a little bit of expansiousness or calm down. It's like, so you're to that point. Ask yourself, what does the divine or spirit want to create through me? Just throw it out there. Again, and get away from the frantic list kind of thing. Usually when you're there, it's a bit more expansive. It's not so task-oriented. It's more about where you're coming from as opposed to what you think you're trying to get. And as you stay there, again, what does Spirit want to create through me? It's not a stressful question where, what do I need? You're like, well, what is this? You know, what's the meaning I'm here to help do? And you realize that you don't get a list so much of, I have to do this, I have to go over here, I have to kind of thing. There's a sense of a direction to be with maybe not having an exact list of what I'm supposed to do yet. And of course, that can frustrate us a little bit. And when we want to go into spiritual practices, I want answers. I want to know what to do, and I want to know right now. What this does, and you can be here for a long time, and you just pose that question out. And I know a lot of times when we ask that question in a visioning process, there's this hope and this expectation that your life path will unfold in front of you and you know exactly what to do. That's not the way that it works. It is a way of aligning yourself with a different type of vibration of the divine that as you make your decisions throughout the day, it comes from that spot as opposed to that weird list spot. And that if you find yourself becoming frantic because of that other list, that a spiritual practice really is, one of the main points of any spiritual practice is to consciously bring you from here that you've been frantic back down to here. Again, without even an agenda, just to be here as what you see the world through. And again, how do these lists come together? So if you are successful into being here more often than not, you will see those things on your list. What is actually important for you to do? That it might actually fit into this larger reason of why you're here and what you need to go forward and to embody. You'll see that a lot of that list falls off as less than important. And that you become comfortable, I know this sounds odd, with uncertainty. This list wants certainty. I want to do this in a certain amount of time. We've been, as Westerners, trained to set goals and time frames in which those goals are to be met. And there's a certain, there's a place for that, actually, in different ways. But to get there, it's to be okay with uncertainty. It's to know that when you, in a sense, jump off the cliff in that frame of mind, you know that there is always a parachute, that you never will crash land. It will probably look in a way that you've never thought it was going to look or ever imagined or dreamed it was going to look, but there will something happen in time and on time that you hadn't considered. And again, it may involve doing some of the things on that other list, but you will be pursuing them from a different state of consciousness. So if you have anything that is troubling you, that's difficult, that you're trying to solve right now, and there's a certain level that we have to navigate that list at that level. So you've got your list. So the thing is not to like pound your brain of how am I going to solve this. The first way to doing it is, again, bringing it down to here and to see it from a different energetic perspective. And if you're in frantic list mode, we really resist going into this mode. You may have noticed. And sometimes when we're in this mode, we keep doing things that keep us stuck in this mode, as opposed to saying, okay, stop. Let's go into this mode. Like if you notice that if you've ever worked in a certain portion of your life really hard and didn't get enough sleep and you're thinking, well, the answer here is just to rest and to get sleep, but no, I've got to get stuff done. Have you ever been at a point in your life you're doing that? I think we've all had to some extent, till finally you just almost collapse and go, I guess I needed to rest after all. So this is like, you need to come here after all, in a sense. That it is actually a good time management tool, if you want to think left brain, coming here because you will see things with greater clarity and you'll be more receptive to what it is that you really need to do. And to know that that power and presence of the divine is in you and with you at all times. And there's a lot of things that you just don't need to know right now. And we hate that too. So I just want to close today with one of my new favorite things to go to is Science of Mind 365. And this is for August 12th. It's called I Am Spirit. There is a spiritual body that cannot deteriorate. This spiritual body is already within you. As much of it appears as is recognized. Spiritual perfection always responds to your consciousness, but it can respond only in such degrees as you become aware of it. It is because this inward perfection is so insistent that you maintain a physical body, and because you are an individual with volition, you can, as it were, hang a curtain between your physical self and its spiritual cause. Spiritual realization helps you withdraw this curtain. Every statement you make about your body or belief you hold about is that causes the mind to accept spirit as the substance of the body tends to heal. And say, and this is an affirmation they're saying we should say together, and if you want this, I'll email it to you. Let me know at office@lightofthemountains.org. I realize that there is a divine presence at the center of my being. I let this recognition flow throughout my entire consciousness. I let it reach down into the very depths of my being. I rejoice in this realization. I am now made vigorous and whole. I possess the vitality of the infinite. I am strong and well. Every breath I draw is a breath of perfection, vitalizing, animating, and renewing every cell of my body. I am born of the Spirit. I am in the Spirit. I am the Spirit made manifest. So I'm going to read this one more time, but let's close our eyes. And I'm going to invite you to get a visual in your mind of that annoying list that we all make. And see yourself put it aside. And see yourself now, let us just go to that energy space of our heart. That list will still be there. We can get back to it. Don't worry, it's not going anywhere. Allow yourself to feel the expansiveness of yourself, of the universe, of spirit. You may feel tingling, you may not, but just allow yourself to feel a sense of peace. And let me read this again. I realize that there is a divine presence at the center of my being. I let this recognition flow through my entire consciousness. I let it reach down into the depths of my being. I rejoice in this realization. I am now made vigorous and whole. I possess the vitality of the infinite. I am strong and well. Every breath I draw is a breath of perfection, vitalization, animating, and renewing every cell of my body. I am born of the Spirit. I am in the Spirit. I am the Spirit made manifest. And so it is.